At our next spot, and that is the Windmill Museum. And this is the outside, looks lovely. And we'll see what they have to say about windmills. It doesn't seem like something that would be absolutely exciting, but for me, anytime they actually make a museum out of something, that means that there's a story to be told. So we're gonna go and hear about some windmills.
My name is Mike Harkey. I'm one of the volunteers here at the Mid-America Windmill Museum, and we welcome a visit from anyone who would like to come. We have 52 windmills here. We have a 1889 bank barn attached with windmills inside. We have a 10-minute movie that tells you about wind, and then we have the gift shop here. So we welcome all visitors. But what's unique about that windmill is when the wind changed and say it came from what, it came this way, the miller on the second floor comes down the steps, pushes the 2x4, and he either has a horse or mule or is powerful enough to do it and pushes that wheel, and that whole house will pivot. Company that's still downtown Kendallville. They just celebrated 150 years in 2016, and now they're at 152 years. This is what the factory looked like when it started in 1874. And now it's modern today, and they were here, we have 11, they manufacture 11 windmills. And their first one was called the Original Star. They shipped it not only to the United States, but 44 countries. And in World War II, Ernie Pyle, who was from Indiana, that was a photographer and a writer for the Army, we were engaged with the Germans in North Africa, and he got homesick because all he saw was the Original Star windmill pumping water in North Africa in World War II. And our last windmill that they made is this model here. When you came in, there's one out there, and when you walk around, there's one on the hill with a pump underneath it. It was made in 1937. It's called the Zephyr. See, the tail's got 5 points on it. Some windmill tails are different, but see the 5-sided tail? That's a model we sell.
You know what I want? This.
What is this, John?
Right here. Gotta open it. But this is what I want.
Those are coasters, aren't they?
Yeah, I want a coaster.
So far, this is very, very interesting information. We've already learned about windmills and didn't know much. Like I said before, we see them and don't know about them, so it's always good to hear about different things that you're not used to hearing about. I'm also so glad, as always, that Trinity gets to hear this kind of information because it helps with, we do homeschooling, but we call it road schooling because she gets impromptu field trips all over the place. And so we're going to go in now and see a film.
Driven along a little bit on the power of the wind. You know, there's an old saying that says, when someone invented something, someone needed something. So, what need encouraged the invention of the windmill? Well, what did you guess? Do you think you got it right? Well, here's the real story. Many, many years ago, people, just like today, needed grains like corn and wheat for their diet. They used these grains to make bread and other foods. Back then, people had to grind the grain by rubbing 2 stones together, like these. It was hard work to sail boats on the Nile River nearly 6,000 years ago. And the ancient Chinese used to fly kites. Lots of people knew how to use the wind to dry clothes and separate grain from the chaff. Along the border of a land called Persia, now known as Iran and Afghanistan, is an area where the wind blows strongly from the same direction during the same 3 months every year. The Persians thought if they could only use the power of these winds, they could grind their grain a lot faster and a lot easier. So, they put these powerful winds to use by building the first known windmills some 1,600 years ago. Now, the movement of people throughout the world spread the word about the Persian windmills, and people began to refine them for many other uses.
As high pressure heads at us, winds are coming out of the northwest, but as it moves away, winds become quite warm out of the southwest. There are certain parts of the country that have favorable wind conditions, and they can take advantage of the power of wind. Many of these areas are near mountains, like the Rockies, the Sierra, or the Appalachian Mountains.
means it's 2 stories. They took it down here in 1994, a little town donated it to us, and the Amish helped put the barn back up, and that's why you see the white paint. They knew exactly where to put the bollards. We sided it to protect the wood so you can see everything's put together with wooden pegs, like up by that wire, that white wire up there, up this column here. Everything other than the screws we put in, okay? Now the floor isn't original, so you won't fall through. We haven't lost nobody since 1994. When you guys go outside, if you want to go use the restroom, either side of the path will take you around and down in the basement, and then there's 2 Johns, men and women's John down, and you'll see it. You just go in the door down there. Now here's Flint and Walling's famous original star. Remember I said about this being over in North Africa? This is the 10-foot wheel, and all windmills have to have governors, just like your car has cruise control. So they all need to know how to slow down. And the engineers were quite intelligent in those days because they did it mostly through the gear ratio. Now this windmill, you'd have to climb the tower to oil it, work on it. It says Model 9, that means it was built in 1909. Now this one is from Wisconsin, it's called the Raymond. If you notice, it don't have a tail on it, and all the gears are up front instead of in the back. So once it gets going too fast, the unique way this thing works is it knows it needs to slow down, it merely collapses into a wind tunnel. It's called a sectional. So then once it slows down, it closes back up. It starts spinning, say in a couple hours it goes too fast. So it doesn't need you to be, when it gets going too fast, the tail will raise up and pull on the gears to slow down. But you see the gears, that's where you gotta get up with a grease gun, go up the 40-foot tower and grease it. And you have to do that probably on this one a couple times a month. Now this one that's working over here, you see Kalamazoo had a ton of windmills. And I tell people if you ever want to look these things up, you'd have to look them up at your local library. Troy's up by Detroit, I don't think. Coldwater, I think you guys are still east, aren't you?
Yes.
That one that's laying over there against the wall, that's the star, the red, white, blue, and I showed you how pretty it was. That's what it looks like after 40 years.
So we have gotten a great education on windmills so far. They do so much more than we ever even imagined. Got the history of it, the different regions and the types of windmills, that they're not all Dutch, that some are English. The barn that we just left out of that you saw the inside is an 1889 barn. So we even got history. This barn right here behind me was built in 1889, and when you look at the slats on the inside, they're actually the tree branches and tree trunks. So now we're going to look around at the actual working windmills out here and see what they have out here.
Hey, Mama. Hey, why don't we see the fishes?
There are koi fish in that pond, so we're going to go over. Trinity wants to see the koi fish in the pond, so we're going to go over and see these. It is beautiful and peaceful out here. This is also a Harvest Host location, but we're not going to stay here tonight because we're going to make our way a little bit further toward our destination. So we will be staying at another Harvest Host location. But this is a Harvest Host location if you're interested in staying. Like I said, the grounds are very, very pretty and very peaceful. So it looks like you have a good night's sleep. Where we parked our RV, looks like they don't get a whole lot of traffic. And he said they don't get a lot. Everything's volunteer run, but he said that they do have weddings here every week, and they're booked all the way through 2020. This is the bridge over here, the Marianne Bridge, where the horses cross and that. And all of these, again, are working windmills.
Some red on them.
I just saw them.
There's some little ones. Where?
But there they are.
Oh my goodness. Oh, looky. That's a small one. That's what it looks like, but he's even bigger than that. They're going, thank you for seeing us.
So we're getting ready to go inside this windmill, and we're going to climb up and see it from the inside.
Somebody, you go up first.
So we have been to Shipshewana, the flea market and the auction, and we're at the Windmill Museum, and we started out at the Amish Museum this morning, and we are tuckered out. We're going to our Harvest Host location, and we are going to call it an evening. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in, and like and subscribe if you like the video. Bye-bye, all.
Bye.